There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur, or sharpen it to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit quietly and we will control all that you see and hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure.
To experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the deepest inner mind to the outer limits.
Downward slope. The sand is red and so hot it's hard to cope. There's 6 suns above me, sweltering. Millions of beetles fly, pelting me. I'm not alone. There's others bound to dead trees. They have no mouths, but their eyes, they cry please. I stay in my path as it leads me to a cave. Thank God, or the heat will bring me to my grave, into the mouth of the big red mountain. The first thing that I see is a giant blood fountain. As the plasma flows, I see a dog drinking from it. The smell of death in the air makes me wanna vomit, but I don't. I maintain and move ahead. There's 3 ways to go, and 2 will leave me dead. I'm on the trail in the middle, and all I'm knowing is that this tunnel's getting smaller, or I'm growing.
Sleep is like a curse. Yeah, I'm tripping on it, stranded on a tree. Please don't leave me on it, shrouded in the clouds. All my nightmares, someone let me out. I don't wanna die here. Sleep is like a curse. Yeah, I'm tripping on it, stranded on a tree. Please don't leave me on it, shrouded in the clouds. All my nightmares, someone let me out. I don't wanna die.
I come to an opening and sit to rest. I notice I got leeches on my arms and chest. I pull them off. Look up and see a boy, he tosses me a ball. I throw him back his toy, he waves, come on, I think about it. He reaches, yes, he turns around and starts walking. I'm speechless, the back of his head is blown off like a shotgun book. And I'm like, what the fuck? I stick with him anyway, his brains are falling out. I wanna help the kid, I keep calling out. We come to a giant pit, it looks bottomless. I'm right behind him like, how we getting out of this? He turns around facing me, and like he's heartless, he flips me off and falls back into the darkness and silently plummets. I backtrack some, like why was I following him anyway? I'm that dumb.
Sleep is like a curse. Yeah, I'm tripping on it, stranded on a tree. Please don't leave me on it, shrouded in the clouds. All my nightmares, someone let me out. I don't wanna die here. Sleep is like a curse. Yeah, I'm tripping on it, stranded on a tree. Please don't leave me on it, shrouded in the clouds. All my nightmares, someone let me out. I don't wanna die.
They finally found a way out. It's nighttime. I can see the galaxy just looking at the skyline. There's fireflies buzzing big as baseballs, serpents, snails, and everything that crawls. I can see a tree in the pale light of the moon's glow. The closer I get, the more I make out the show. Bodies hanging by the neck, maybe 20 of them, all with no arms or legs. Man, so many of them way up at the top, all over the bottom. Plenty on the floor who must have fell just rotten. It's probably got a name, but I'd rather not know it. Did people put them bodies there, or did the tree grow them? 4 moons in the sky, sheep with wings. I can see them walking on the planet's rings. Where the fuck am I? I'm lost in my brain. I'm being eaten by a snake when I hear my name.
Joe, wake up. You're having a nightmare. Jeez. Are you okay? God, you're screaming.
Sleep is like a curse. Yeah, I'm tripping on it, stranded on a dream. Please don't leave me on it, shrouded in the clouds. All my nightmares, someone let me out. I don't wanna die here. Sleep is like a curse. Yeah, I'm tripping on it, stranded on a dream. Please don't leave me on it, shrouded in the clouds. Nightmares, someone let me out. I don't wanna die here. Sleep is like a curse. Yeah, I'm tripping on it, stranded on a dream. Please don't leave me on it, shrouded in the clouds. All my nightmares, someone let me out. When I'm stuck in the dream, sleep is like a curse. Yeah, I'm tripping on it, stranded on a dream. Please don't leave me on it, shrouded in the clouds. All my nightmares, someone let me out. When I'm stuck in the dream.
The last road to Megiddo. As I sit here drawing what feels like my last breaths, my breathing is heavy with what sounds like a trash disposable unit in the kitchen. My magic is sustaining me as we speak, and I should have been dead probably long ago. I write to you now the last chapter of this story and what may be my last tale. Taint is a word used to describe something that contaminates and causes something to become impure or desecrated, and is the best phrase to use to describe what the dark manifestation of evil's essence gathered and pooled together and given life. Surely if you had ever encountered it you would understand. It is not a demon, or a fallen angel, nor is it a wrathful spirit, for it has never lived. It is a living shadow, that has a form comprised of what a person's mind conceives as evil and amplifies that concept beyond what your mind can grasp, as that concept suddenly takes physical form when you try to gaze upon it. Your mind's image of what you understand and define as evil twists within the shadow and begins to take form. The screams of fear, the shouts of hatred, the cries of suffering, all suddenly become a shadowy figure outlined in darkness, and then takes the shape and form of that which causes those screams of fear. It becomes the maniac that shouts in hatred. The figure of that which you connect as that which could cause such suffering, that is your concept of evil, appears before you, living, breathing and staring you straight in the face. It taints all memories and ideas of hope, righteousness and virtue. That is a small description of what it is. It is the real-life it, the shadow wolf Fenrir, the boogeyman, the personification of evil, the primordial chaos who existed before creation formed, and the source of my life, stream and soul. Dawn of battle. The Arabic regions lay a wasteland of spiritual turmoil. Mankind feels the surrounding region teeming with conflict and strife, and run from the coming war they sense is coming. Thereupon, the battlefield, the darkness of shadow emerges, the avatar of Lucifer, shrouded in battle armor of the dead that was pieced together by the martyred dead souls fallen to deceptions and manipulations that have finally caused this battle to occur. War, conflict and optimism are necessary sometimes for life itself to evolve and continue to become the most and best efficient version of itself on a philosophical level of understanding. Though it is unfortunate when those times are necessary, it must be tolerated to an extent. In this situation we now face, that we have come to call Armageddon, or the final conflict, is a war against the forces that have manipulated these aspects not just within us but against us as well. Lucifer raised his fist to the sky and revealed the swarm of angelic hosts above them in the sky. It is time, my children. It is time that we make a stand against the true nature of the ones who manipulate our lives into the very demons they condemn us for one day becoming. The destiny we each have been damned to hell for was a design ushered in by their opinions and their judgments and whispers in the ears of mortals, warning them of our terrible deeds and thus manipulating the view of the world around us. We war not against heaven but the serpent that those among them cast upon our shoulders to bear. Lucifer took flight and hovered above the onlooking spirits bound in the torment of hell's pit that follows them no matter where they roam. Rise, I say rise, and hear not the words that they cry out, proclaiming our already decided defeat, for they are words meant to cause doubt and despair. Our cause is just, our reasons defined by our grief and sorrow and pain at the hands of their tyranny. We fight until all who are responsible for this atrocity have been tossed down to the earth and into hell's fire like the fallen ones they truly are, and proclaim us to be in their stead. And with that Lucifer turned in time to face 4 angels flying straight at him with swords ready to cut him down quick. Lucifer smiled out of the corner of his mouth and the spirit sword manifested from the flames that sprung up from his hands. He parried the first, second then third angel, sending them into a stumbling free fall towards the ground, and then slammed head-on into the fourth angel, using him as a shield as he crashed through the mass clutter of angels and demons that were now locked on combat above them, sending angels flying in all directions. He looped around and went flying back into the hole he had punched in the mass of battling soldiers. This time he snagged and dragged any angel that tried to strike him as he passed through, gathering a large crowd of angels that were in tow behind him. As he neared the ground he began to spin round and round, and then flung the swirling mass of helpless angels like a bolo into Mikhail, whom he had spotted cleaving his way across the battlefield towards the demon warlords. Mikhail was knocked off his feet by the swirling pinwheel of angelic hosts. Lucifer wasted no time with Mikhail and plunged his flaming spirit sword deep into his chest, causing him to gasp in pain. As Mikhail fell to the ground, Lucifer stood triumphantly over him, a sinister smile on his face. "Now you see, Mikhail," Lucifer sneered, his voice dripping with malice, "the true power that lies within me. I am not the fallen one you thought me to be. I am the Avenger, the Liberator, and the Bringer of Justice." The other angels looked on in shock and disbelief, their faith in their once beloved leader shattered. They had been taught to fear Lucifer, to despise him for his rebellion, but now they saw the truth. He was fighting against the very forces that had manipulated them all. With a wave of his hand, Lucifer called upon his demon allies, who had been waiting eagerly on the fringes of the battlefield. As they charged forward, the angels found themselves caught in a fierce battle, torn between their loyalty to their former comrades and the revelation of the truth. In the chaos of the battle, Lucifer's voice boomed across the battlefield, reaching the ears of all who fought. "This is not a war against heaven, my brothers and sisters," he declared, his voice filled with conviction. "This is a war against the lies, the deceptions, and the injustices that have plagued us for far too long. Join me in this fight, and together, we will bring an end to their reign." Some angels hesitated, torn between their allegiance to heaven and the undeniable truth that Lucifer presented. But as they witnessed the atrocities committed by their own kind, the scales began to tip in Lucifer's favor. One by one, they joined his cause, their wings now tainted with darkness, symbolizing their defiance. The battle raged on, the clash between angels and demons intensifying with each passing moment. But amidst the chaos, Lucifer's army stood united, their determination unyielding. They fought not for their own redemption, but for the freedom and justice that had been denied to them for centuries. And as the dawn of a new era approached, the forces of darkness and light collided in a final, cataclysmic clash. The outcome of this battle would determine the fate of not only the Arabic regions but the entire world. For now, the battlefield lay engulfed in flames, the air thick with the cries of the fallen. The war was far from over, but Lucifer and his newfound allies stood strong, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They knew that their fight against the manipulators of their lives had only just begun, and they were prepared to sacrifice everything to bring about a new dawn of truth and freedom. Heimdall grew tired of watching these events unfold and came down to stop the antagonists from bringing about their utopian destruction, and went after their general Istroth the Nargalian behemoth. Their swords clashed and sparks flew as the transdimensional traveler Heimdall fought their juggernaut. He took flight and came down on Istroth, burying him in a 6-feet-deep crater, separating all his augmented genes with rock and stone in the process. As he stood in victory, Heimdall heard a distinct click behind him as the chaos blades of the spirit sword crashed through every plane of existence and splitting his mind's eye that watched over all realms from there. The swords flew in a flurry of wind, slicing him to pieces on every plane, and the last thing he saw was Lucifer stood over him as the darkness drew in. Odin, believing that Lucifer had gone rogue and falling to Samael and Sargon, called Mikhail, his father Zeus, and informed him of Heimdall's fall. Mikhail retrieved the chains from the place and hurried off to try and stop Lucifer before this got any further, but in his rush forgot what they were holding there and did not know that Fenrir had been watching the events unfold thanks to Lucifer's warnings. He stood poised and ready, and as soon as the chain were loosened, Fenrir did not hesitate. He lunged for Odin first. I have waited long for this, All-Father, as he gnashed and ripped Odin to shreds before any of the other gods had time to react. Loki stood as Hera, slowly climbed up where she had been held all those years, falsely imprisoned by Aphrodite's lies. Now it begins, the end of all things, as she snapped her fingers and they disappeared into the darkness. In Italy, inside the Sistine Chapel, a lone figure stood, hooded and solemn, gazing over and over the works around him as if trying to find a missing piece within a puzzle. Search all you want, Raphael. The one answer you're looking for you'll never find here, because you search for a lie. There in the archway stood Azazel with a tattered piece of cloth in his hands. Well, brother, that explains how you are able to enter a house of God unabated. You know then. Raphael's halberd spearhead blade slid into a ready position. You mean the fact that you've withheld all those who stood against you with me, children or not, through a curse you placed upon us by that blood of my slaughtered son, Azrael? Azazel wasted no time and drew his spear blade as he lunged at the former god Apollo. The clash of their blades shattered every glass object within a mile radius, yet was so high-pitched no one with human ears perceived its sound. His transcendence form told me of it, you could say. In fact, you just met him. He became the blade I wield now when I lifted him off of the rock you impaled him on. A slight smile in the corner of Azazel's mouth appeared before a flurry of blinding strikes in various places around the chapel almost at once erupted before a slight pause, neither foe hurt or tired. Your vanity will be the best of you, brother, just as our father had said, for I now see the end of this conflict as plain as the day this place was made. Raphael feigned an attacking rush, prompting Azazel to move, catching him off guard, and spun the inertia of their collision around, impaling Azazel upon the unfinished piece of the Sistine Chapel's roof. His blackened blood streaming down Raphael's spear hilt, he choked, "You forget, brother, I do not fight alone." Suddenly the phantasm spirit of Azrael appeared out of the tip of Azazel's weapon and gripping Raphael as he pulled him back upon the axe-like grooves of the spear. Azazel drove the hilt through the concrete, securing his impaled fate close to him. Azazel whispered into his ear, "Now join us in death, brother, and let justice truly be done." There was a bright light like that of an atomic bomb that could be seen for miles, yet none were harmed. After the glow abated, people gathered in awe of the chapel's entrance, pointing at the ceiling. The burned into the stone in the unfinished masterpiece of Michelangelo were the outlines of what was once Raphael, also known as Apollo, Azazel and his son Azrael. Across the world in America, John stood, awaiting for the metro train to come to the station in San Francisco. He pretended to remain unaware, but the unmistakable sensation of the cold, stale breeze of death's presence had consumed the entire station. John spun around and said, "You know, you couldn't sneak up on a corpse with a vibe like that, my friend." Death waited and exchanged no words, pushing him with the hilt of his scythe onto their tracks as the train rushed past, and people screamed, thinking John had slipped onto the oncoming train. The chain of cars screeched to a halt, and the last car passed slowly by where he fell. Suddenly John appeared from a wisp of ethereal clouds and grabbed hold of Death, yanking him into the mortal realm as he crossed back over with him. "This is going to hurt you much more than it will me, old friend." And the two exchanged a series of blinding blows as John produced the legendary demiurge soul swords from what seemed like nowhere. Able to cross and cause damage in any plane to any being in those planes, Death had nowhere to retreat and no choice but to face him. Death tried to get distance by retreat backward, but John leapt onto the front of the next passing train in pursuit, singingly, in an insane ensemble of clashing blows and what sounded the tune O Fortuna being sung by John as they rushed through the tunnels heading towards Oakland. Realizing his attention was focused on the direction of his scythe, Death flung his scythe upward over the bay and John followed along its path. Realizing he'd been fooled, John gripped the side of the bay bridge hanging by both hands as his swords fell into the bay. Death appeared above him with scythes in hand, ready to sever John's head clean, but not before John grabbed him by his loincloth and pushed him into the material world once again, into the path of a passing bus, ending the battle with the words, "And thus even death may die," as he released his hold on the bridge, plummeting into the bay water's depths to retrieve his sword, the demiurge blades forged by an unknown sword maker 6,500 years ago and hidden within the fountain of youth in the regions of the swampland of Louisiana. The waters of eternal life held the blades from decay, as that the wielder of the blades could only be one who could wield the mass of thousands of souls at once on a constant basis, for that is what it takes to hold such a sword. The energy of thousands of souls must be fed into the hilt constantly, something only a demon master sage could accomplish. Otherwise it would consume whoever wielded it, completely draining their life force. John emerged from the depths of the bay, his body dripping with water, his grip firm on the hilt of the demiurge blade. He felt the surge of power coursing through his veins as he wielded the ancient weapon. With a newfound determination, John made his way back to the city, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. He knew that the battle against the forces of darkness was far from over, but he also knew that he possessed the strength and the will to fight. As he walked the streets of San Francisco, John could sense the presence of evil lurking in the shadows. He could hear the whispers of demons and the cries of innocent souls trapped in torment. It was his duty, his destiny, to bring an end to this darkness and restore balance to the world. With each step, John could feel the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He had become a beacon of hope, a symbol of resistance against the forces that sought to destroy humanity. And he was determined to fulfill his role, no matter their cost. The final battle loomed ahead, and John knew that he couldn't face it alone. He sought out allies, individuals who shared his vision and were willing to fight alongside him. Together, they formed a formidable force, united in their purpose and unwavering in their resolve. The stage was set for the ultimate showdown, where good and evil would clash in a battle for the fate of the world. John and his allies prepared themselves, honing their skills and strategizing for the inevitable confrontation. As the dawn of the final battle approached, John stood at the forefront, his heart filled with determination and his soul ablaze with righteous fury. He knew that the outcome of this battle would shape the future of humanity, and he was ready to give everything he had to ensure a better world. With a rallying cry, John led his allies into battle, their weapons gleaming in the sunlight. The clash of steel and the roar of magic echoed through the air as the forces of darkness and light collided in a cataclysmic confrontation. In the midst of the chaos, John fought with unwavering resolve, his sword cutting through demons and dark creatures. He could feel the power of the demiurge blade coursing through him, fueling his every strike, empowering him to stand against even the most formidable foes. The battle raged on, each side refusing to yield. But as the forces of darkness began to falter, overwhelmed by the relentless onslaught of John and his allies, a glimmer of hope emerged. The tides were turning, and victory seemed within reach. In a final, decisive blow, John struck down the leader of the demonic forces, shattering their ranks and sending them into disarray. The remaining demons fled, their reign of terror coming to an end. As the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded, John stood amidst the ruins, his body battered but his spirit unbroken. He had fulfilled his destiny, vanquishing the darkness and bringing about a new era of peace and prosperity. Their world, once plagued by conflict and despair, now had a chance to heal and rebuild. And John, the reluctant hero, would forever be remembered as the one who brought about the dawn of a new age. But he knew that the fight was never truly over. Evil would always find a way to seep back into the world, and it was his duty to remain vigilant, to protect the innocent and ensure that darkness would never again consume their lives. And so, with a renewed sense of purpose, John set off into the horizon, ready to face whatever challenges awaited him. The dawn of battle had come and gone,